Hello, everyone. I'm Stephen Bartkus, the Executive Director of the Ridgefield Historical Society in Ridgefield, Connecticut, and the Project Director for the Ridgefield LGBTQIA+ Oral History Project. I'm here with Dr. Robin Collins, the founder of the Literacy Barn in Ridgefield, Connecticut, and Project Manager for the Ridgefield LGBTQIA+ Oral History Project. We're so excited to share the story of this project with you, how it began, how we built it, and what it has meant for our community.
Hello, it is lovely to be here with you all today. As Stephen mentioned, our objective is to share the details of an innovative cross-community collaborative research project based in Ridgefield, Connecticut. Specifically, we will cover the project's inception, design, and overall process, the challenges and rewards associated with engaging with this project, as well as some of our observations, reflections, and key insights that Stephen and I gained throughout the experience.
The Ridgefield Historical Society's purpose is to preserve, interpret, and foster public knowledge of Ridgefield's historical, cultural, and architectural heritage. Founded in 2001, the Ridgefield Historical Society maintains a state-of-the-art archive which serves as the principal repository for Ridgefield's historic documents, images, and artifacts, and most of the Historical Society's programs, exhibits, and events reference this extensive collection of over 10,000 items. I envisioned the Ridgefield LGBTQIA+ Oral History Project, which was made possible by a generous implementation grant from Connecticut Humanities, which I wrote, as a way to preserve the stories that had been left out of our town's past. Despite a robust collection of over 200 oral histories at the Ridgefield Historical Society, ranging from World War II veterans to individuals who grew up in Ridgefield to those who lived through the COVID pandemic, not one was from an LGBTQIA+ perspective. I knew that had to change, so I set out to preserve for the first time the voices and stories of these individuals in Ridgefield by innovatively recruiting and training student volunteers to conduct the interviews. The goals of this project are simply to record, preserve, and share Ridgefield LGBTQIA+ stories, which are underrepresented in the Ridgefield Historical Society's collection, to foster intergenerational conversation and increase civic pride and awareness. So executing a project like this required deep collaboration. I first reached out to Dr. Susan Ferentinos, a nationally renowned LGBTQIA+ historian, and she agreed to be our project advisor. I also contacted the GSA Club advisor at Ridgefield High School, Julie Henderson, and also Ridgefield CT Pride's chair, Alyssa Trachenberg, and they were enthusiastic about participating in the project. We then invited Dr. Robin Collins of the Literacy Barn here in Ridgefield to join us as project manager. Together, we built the project infrastructure, the scheduling, the training, the protocols, and oversight.
From end to end, this project took 2 years. So Stephen conceived the project and wrote the grant in the spring of 2023. In the fall of 2023, Dr. Ferentinos visited our town to launch the project with a presentation for the community and a training session on oral history research for student interviewers. We recruited, as Stephen mentioned, and trained high school students in best practices in oral history, interviewing, as well as queer cultural sensitivity. The students themselves helped to draft the interview questions, and we ran practice interviews, developed scripts and consent protocols, and ensured that all interviews followed a consistent methodology. In the January of 2024, the official data collection phase began. We were able to maintain a pretty consistent interview schedule throughout the spring, summer, and fall of 2024. And by the December of 2024, we had been able to collect record, and transcribe about 25 completed interviews. In the early of this year, the winter of 2025, those interview transcripts were sent to Dr. Ferentinos, and she is working on compiling those into a publication for us. The recordings were also uploaded into the digital archives of both the Historical Society in Ridgefield and the CT Humanities digital archives. This month, the project will officially conclude with a roundtable celebration. Dr. Ferentinos is returning to our community and will facilitate a discussion with both interviewees and interviewers. This event will be open to families and the public and provide an opportunity to showcase the work that we've accomplished. Our interviewers consisted of 16 students ages 14 to 18. No interested student was turned away, and a few of our students opted to only conduct one interview, but the vast majority of them enthusiastically participated in several. Our interviewees consisted of 29 participants aged 24 to 87. For logistical ease, and because our project is a qualitative study aimed at exploring the perspectives of a specific population, interviewees were recruited through convenient sampling. An open call for participants was disseminated via email, participating organizations' websites, and social media. In the end, participants were primarily recruited by invitation from the local community pride organization or by personal invitation from Stephen, Julie, Elisa, or myself. Because we utilize convenient sampling, we acknowledge that concerns regarding representation exist for this project. While we sought to prioritize interview participants based on age in order to align with the goals of interviewing community elders, we did not make efforts to balance our participants across other identity categories, such as gender or race or socioeconomic status. And although we ultimately achieved a diverse mix of participants across age, gender, and sexuality, our interview pool lacks diversity as our subjects skewed white and middle class, which in truth reflects the demographic of the community. As researchers, we recognize that every research design has strengths and weaknesses, and we acknowledge that representation remains a limitation of the convenient sampling within the design of this project. But our hope is that future projects will reach even more diverse voices.
As we reflect on the narratives shared as a collective, we noticed several commonalities. Participants frequently spoke about the importance of spaces for community and belonging. These spaces, which were sometimes found, sometimes created, and at times carved out, were as diverse as the individuals themselves. They included game nights, drag shows, gay bars, church groups, and more. Regardless of the setting, participants emphasized the significant role these spaces played in their identity development, self-acceptance, and the fostering of relationships. Another recurring theme in the stories revolved around perceptions of queer experiences and challenges across generations. Many older participants experienced narrower understandings of queer identity. For instance, while some identified as gay, they expressed uncertainty about their pronouns. Others voiced discomfort with variations in gender identity, contrasting with their acceptance of diverse sexual identities. Interestingly, several participants conveyed a sense of triumph in witnessing younger queer individuals embrace their gender and sexual expressions more freely than they had in their own youth. In turn, students often express surprise at the challenges experienced by earlier generations, recognizing the significant shifts in experiences and expectations for acceptance over time. Another prominent commonality that emerged from the interviews was the significance of visibility and representation. Numerous participants remarked on how impactful it was to see rainbow flags displayed around town, to participate in community pride celebrations, and to encounter advertising for queer community events.
Reflections on our experiences with this project have revealed many rewards, from partnering with adolescents, collaborating with multiple community-based organizations, and attempting to establish connections across age and community boundaries. Specifically, the learning that our students shared during our debrief conversations was notable. Several mentioned they had never even ever spoken to a queer elder before. And one of our interviewers emphatically told us, older gay people exist. Many students also expressed the realization of how recent queer history is as they spoke with people who have been present at significant events such as the Stonewall Uprising, Don't Ask, Don't Tell policies, and the AIDS epidemic. Most significantly, they often expressed the realization that so much of our history as a nation is queer history, and how much of queer history is silenced in their public education curricula. Along the same lines, students highlighted the significance of speaking with individuals who had lived much of their lives in silence. And lastly, the students repeatedly conveyed the value of developing interview skills, asking open-ended questions, listening to learn, and creating spaces for others to be heard. Many of our interview participants expressed that the experience of being interviewed was cathartic for them. One man remained tearful throughout his entire interview, and later he told us that he was being asked things that no one had ever inquired about before. Another participant shared how she was encouraged to participate in the project by her daughter, who had emphasized the importance of telling her story. And the third participant, who happens to be a public town figure, had only recently publicly come out, and she expressed that she now felt brave enough to be able to tell her story. As the project progressed, we observed growing opportunities for members of our community to broaden connections and relationships with each other. Not only do young people and elders recognize each other in public spaces, but some participants have found a queer community they didn't even know existed. One interview participant asked me when I invited her to join the project, is there a queer community in Ridgefield? She has since been able to get connected in deep and meaningful ways. And then I think some of the most meaningful moments often came when we let go of the formality and just let people be themselves. Yes, we had a detailed protocol, but the real breakthroughs came when we allowed space for students and elders to connect as people, not just interviews and subjects. The project also served to open up some meaningful and interesting conversations for Stephen within the Historical Society, with staff and the board members. It allowed him opportunities to consider what history is important to collect and preserve, and the crucial importance of collecting all voices across time.
One of the most meaningful learning points of our oral history project was navigating the logistics and responsibilities involved in working with youth and collaborating organizations. There were many moving pieces, from securing parental permissions for underage student volunteers to managing schedules, training, and protocols. We discovered early on that conventional tools like email and shared calendars weren't always effective for teens, so we adapted with a shared Google Sheet. Much of the training on professionalism, communication, interview skills, and privacy had to be developed in real time as we identified what students needed. It was very much a case of building the ship while we were sailing it. Collaboration with multiple community-based organizations also offered valuable insights. Each partner brought its own structure, clients, and priorities, so communication and flexibility were essential. Our shared goals kept us grounded as we worked through research design questions, such as how to ensure representation without over-editing, and interview logistics, including how to best match interviewers and interviewees. Through this collaborative and adaptive process, we created a meaningful and inclusive record of Ridgefield's LGBTQIA+ community. By the end of 2025 in June, we'll have archived over 25 interviews in the Ridgefield Historical Society's online catalog and in the Connecticut Digital Archive at the University of Connecticut. These are primary sources available for use in Ridgefield High School's U.S. history curriculum and other schools throughout the area. We've built something that will outlast the grant cycle, an enduring contribution to public history, civic engagement, and community healing. At our culminating event on June 21st, we'll celebrate this work publicly with a community celebration and conversation facilitated by Dr. Ferentinos, featuring both interviewers and interviewees. Dr. Ferentinos will also be publishing a book of interviews later this year. So this isn't the end, it's just the beginning. In closing, I want to emphasize that history isn't just what we choose to remember, it's also shaped by the questions we haven't asked, whether out of reluctance or simply being too busy. The Ridgefield LGBTQIA+ Oral History Project made the choice to ask those questions, it listened closely, and now it preserves the stories and experiences of an underrepresented group, capturing voices that matter at an important moment in time.
So thank you for joining us today. We hope this project will serve as an inspiration for others. If you're interested in viewing the interviews, reading the transcripts, or learning more about the Ridgefield Historical Society, please follow the links on this slide. And thank you very much for joining us.